Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over the market, let's go over Tesla, and let's figure out what happened today. Pretty wild day to start, well, I guess to continue the week. So yeah, let's just go over it and let's talk about what happened, what we can expect with, of course, NVIDIA earnings coming out in about 20 minutes or so from now. So yeah, well, from when I'm recording, obviously, but yeah, let's just get right into it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. If you're interested, I have a membership section, by the way, on YouTube. That's now live, of course. We're about 300 members strong, which is great to see. Just $2.99 a month in the description of the video. You can find the link to join, where essentially I post my intraday thoughts, post updates, technical analysis, options flow, Tesla mainly, of course, and sometimes other stocks as well. So again, interested, the link is down below. But let's just get right into it. Tesla closing the day in the green, actually, on a pretty, well, not as brutal anymore, but it was a pretty brutal day for the market. 0.56% in the green, closing at just shy of 195, which isn't too bad, right? Things were looking kind of grim when we started off the day phenomenally, but yeah, today was an interesting day. Let's just say that. So let's talk about what we can expect moving forward. Now, obviously, I want to kind of preface this, right? We have NVIDIA earnings coming out very soon, which can in fact impact really tech in general, but including Tesla potentially as well. So we'll see how this affects the market and Tesla really as NVIDIA reports at about 4:20 today, which is when it's supposed to come out Eastern. So looking at Tesla specifically though. So today was a pretty interesting day. So it was interesting. So the pre-market, we were down 1%. Then pretty much a minute, like literally a minute or two before we opened, all of that negative 1% was completely erased. Tesla opened up pretty much flat and then rocketed up pretty much to $200 per share. Today, the high was 199.44. So we'll just say $200 per share. And unfortunately, we almost went for the gap fill that we left over here just the other day. I think this was Friday, right? Over here. Pretty much gap filled that and then came back down, got a pretty substantial rejection as the market was, like QQQ, for instance, at the lowest point was down like 1.3%. So the good news is this. Tesla closed green. That's number one. So it outperformed QQQ and really the market in general. That's good. But the thing to note here is the fact that when QQQ was down about 1.2, 1.3%, I think at worst Tesla was down like 0.5, maybe 0.6 at worst percent. So Tesla was holding very strongly today relative to the market, which is nice to see that kind of relative strength. I want to be checking back every now and then just to make sure NVIDIA hasn't reported yet. But yeah, so some nice relative strength for Tesla today, which is obviously very good to see. Now, obviously, the bad news is the fact that, well, we came up to the 21 EMA, pretty much went above it actually too, and it was looking pretty promising. And then we, of course, did get slapped back down below it. And unfortunately, we did close back below the 21 EMA once again. So that's the bad news, right? We got slapped back down by the 200, just really the 200 psychological level, and of course, that 21 EMA. So that's the bad news. The good news is the fact that, well, we're still closing within this channel. We're still holding this channel. We outperformed the market, and we're actually closing above 193 or 194 roughly, almost even 195. But 194 is the main one, I would say, for sure, because that's where we really truly dropped down over here and actually bounced from. So this 194-ish level is the most important one, and we are closing above it just barely. So again, not ridiculously convincing, especially with NVIDIA's earnings on deck. It's going up. It's moving a little bit here. We'll see what actually happens here, but not bad, I think, given especially the state of the market and the market just completely pooping itself, we'll say today. So we'll see how this plays out. Interesting thing for the market very quickly to touch on is going to be the fact that it did break below this trend line and it is below the 21 EMA for the QQQ. However, it set up a pretty much beautiful, like absolute perfection of a hammer candle today, and as did SPY, while also maintaining the 21 EMA and arguably still closing barely within the channel. So that's pretty interesting to note as well. So the market looks like it wants to finally reverse this pretty substantial sell-off we've had for the past 2 trading days. So that's important to note as well, right? And Tesla, of course, with a strong relative performance today is good. So maybe if the market does go finally green tomorrow, especially off of NVIDIA's back potentially, hopefully Tesla will ride off of that, and even hopefully more so as well. So we'll see, of course. But with all that being said, the technicals still overall look good. Again, the main thing to look at is while we're within this channel and us ideally holding above 193, 194, ideally even 195. Those are like the kind of that rough range, right? 194 is like the middle. So as long as we're above 194, it's not too bad. But ideally, we want to be above the 21 EMA. So those are like the main levels that we're in right now. We're in this bit of a limbo land right now that we're definitely going to be waiting to see, if we can finally break back above it and start closing some meaningful candles. So going back to the 4-hour chart here, right? Actually, yeah, the 4-hour chart, you can see we did bounce off the 21 EMA. And we're kind of holding pretty strongly here as well. But if I bring out the squeeze meter here, you can see, was it not the 4-hour chart? What chart did I post it on? It was the 4-hour. Did it change? Or am I looking at this like wrong or something? I'm not really sure why it doesn't. look like this over here. Maybe this isn't the 4 hour. Oh, is that the daily I'm on right there? Oh, it is a daily. Sorry, that's not I wrote 4 hour backs and it's the daily chart. That makes more sense. So the daily chart is actually looking pretty decent, right? And the reason it's looking decent is because the TTM squeeze meter at the bottom is actually showing 2 red circles and the bars are going blue above, like, upwards, which is a good sign. That implies that this stock, in this case Tesla, is squeezing. It's, getting ready for a pretty decent move, right? Even though it's only going to be probably a few red circles, still a decent move, right? Enough to potentially bring us to that gap below 210 roughly, but it's also showing those blue bars above. And the TTM squeeze, right after we were squeezing all the way up here, I'm sure you remember we were talking about this, and it did finally show to the downside, right? And then it did obviously squeeze to the downside. Well, now it officially flipped to the bullish side and with the fresh squeeze showing. So that's a good sign, at least, right? So that's promising. Obviously not guaranteed, but promising, very promising. So that's something I'll be looking at and paying attention to and updating my members, of course, as per usual. So we'll see how that goes as well. But again, as long as we're within this channel, in my opinion, Tesla is bullish. If we fall out of this channel, I really wouldn't be surprised if we do come back down to like the low 180s again to retest that, potentially even look for potential double bottom down in the 180 roughly ish areas. But I'd be a little surprised. The only way I can see that happening, honestly, from here is if NVIDIA just drops the ball entirely and the whole market pukes itself tomorrow. Because we also had the FOMC meetings today, which the market did sort of puke itself, but Tesla held decently well into it. So it was somewhat impressive, right? So that it really just hinges on NVIDIA and really how much Tesla gets affected by it, or really that's pretty much the main thing I'll be paying attention to. Now, going over to the 65-minute chart, we also have this potential, arguably a bullish little, I don't know, wedge, if you will, that we're potentially in, where you want to be paying attention to this. This is really important as we're trading pretty much exactly right in the middle of the upper and the bottom part of this potential wedge, if you will, right? But again, you want to be making these yourself and you want to pay attention to these. These are really important, and this is going to be another way on top of this, of course, channel itself, right, to look at Tesla and to determine whether or not it's ready to finally potentially rally or not, or really get back up to that 207 to 210 gap fill, or if unfortunately we're coming back down once again to the 180-ish area to potentially double bottom, hopefully, right? And this is the level you want to be looking at. For instance, if it happens anytime, let's say tomorrow, roughly tomorrow, I would say anything really below today's like 190, I would say like 192, really anything below 192 starts getting pretty suspicious. But ideally on the bullish side, anything really above like 197, I would say, which is also coincidentally where the 21 EMA is on the daily, right? Anything above 197 starts looking like a breakout. So those are the main 2 levels I'll be personally looking at for tomorrow. And I do think that we could potentially get an idea as to where we're going to go based off of NVIDIA coming up in not too much longer, about 10 more minutes. So those are the main things I'll be looking at right now. And that's kind of the main stuff I'm personally eyeballing right at this very moment. So that's going to be, the main stuff, right? Let's take a look at options flow very quickly. So let's take a look at NVIDIA very quickly first, right? So the main thing to note about NVIDIA is the fact that there was substantial amount of bullish flow throughout the day. Obviously some bearishness in between, don't get me wrong, but a lot more bullish than bearishness. For instance, you had a 1.6 million put here for NVIDIA expiring in 2 days, but you also have a 1.8 million, a 3.1 million call coming out, right, expiring in June. Before the market closed, not too far, like 15 minutes before the market closed, you had a 6.2 million, a 6.5 million, and a 6.6 million call coming in leaps, of course. So they are calls, right? They're actually 2026. I thought they were 2025 at first. They're pretty much 2 years out. But nonetheless, right? I mean, why would you buy leaps here if you think NVIDIA is potentially going to crash or whatever, post earnings, right? So still bullish, just not immediately bullish, but bullish nonetheless. So we'll see how that plays out as well. Then you had a bunch of weekly calls coming in right here, 200K, almost a million, 400K, 500K, almost 600K, all for this Friday. Some of them, actually more than half of them, above the ask as well. So some people are betting substantial amounts of money on freaking weeklies. I believe these are weekly. I'm not mistaken. 02, which is February 23rd, which is this Friday, 2024. Yes, they're literally weeklies. Like someone betting $1 million on weekly calls, entering above the ask, showing urgency. So someone either knows something or they just have a lot of money to bet on. So some people are very bullish on NVIDIA for earnings. So we'll see if that's correct or not. So going over to Tesla very quickly, though, pretty mixed flow as well. The most important one, I guess, will be these two right here. We have a 1 million and a 1.1 million call that came in for Tesla, both for May of 17th. 195 calls, which is technically out of the money, especially when they came in, I believe. I can't remember what the price we were at when they came in. It was around 10 a.m. Let's go to the 4-minute, I guess, whatever. Doesn't really matter too much. 10 a.m. we were trading at... Yeah, so they pretty much bought at the top of the day. So I don't know. Maybe they know something I don't, but they pretty much bought near the top of the day. So maybe they're still in it. Maybe they're not. Maybe they took an L. Who knows for sure. But I would say those were the main, notable calls that came in for Tesla, so we'll see how those play out as well for them. But in my opinion, right now, the main thing to look at is, of course, going to be for Tesla. Right now, down about 0.4% for God knows why, really. But the main thing to look at for Tesla is going to be, of course, like I said, NVIDIA earnings and the 65-minute chart. We have, of course, this potential little wedge that we are in and the daily channel as well. So yeah, those are the main things to look for. We'll see how the market reacts tomorrow as well to NVIDIA as well, and see if Tesla can hopefully, if the market does finally work off of these beautiful looking bullish hammers, which I very much like to see, we'll see if Tesla can follow suit as well and the market can get another pop, because a lot of people want to short the market. A lot of people think the market is ready to crash, and usually when everyone thinks the market's ready to crash, even though it kind of looks like it is, well, the market is going to give a big middle finger to most people, and it's not going to do it just yet. So the market's very good at doing these kind of really annoying things, and we'll see if it continues to do so. But all in all, that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. NVIDIA earnings on deck, going to be a spooky one and a wild one, so we'll see how it plays out. But all that being said and done, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. So until then, thanks for watching. Peace.